everyone, and welcome to our second full episode of
Chronicles of the Phoenix.
Today we have an exciting topic we want to talk about, which is letting go and moving toward. And what we mean by that is how to release what's not serving us anymore, so that we can move towards something better, looking at the emotional, mental, and practical sides of letting go and how to start doing that. And we thought it would be a good time to have this conversation because it's fall.
Yeah.
And we're in New England and we experience fall for real here. So with that, it just seems like it links us to this time of change, this time of letting go of summer and all of that, which can be sad for a lot of people. I do personally love fall, but I do feel sad to let go of my sunny beach days too.
Mm-hmm. As I was preparing for this, my daughter is a incredible poet. So I love I've always loved poetry, but as a kid, I always felt this limiting belief of myself that I was never right about analyzing poetry. As my beautiful daughter, who's a brilliant poet, writes poetry, I've grown to love it. And so I was searching for a poem that would resonate with this theme, and E.H., who's also, I believe, an Australian poet, wrote this that I wanted to start with also. Hold on, hold on, hold on, they said. You're a dandelion in the breeze. Look what the winds of change have done to all these autumn leaves. Hold on, hold on, hold on. This big wide world is not for you. Hold on for long enough for the gust to dance on through. So I held on, held on, held on. They said that's how you know you're strong. But not until I wilted did I notice something's wrong. I thought holding on was bravery, but when winds of change do blow, sometimes it's even braver still to let go, let go, let go.
I love it.
What does that mean to you when you hear that?
It really describes, I think, the process of change and how when we're embracing a change that we're trying to make, oftentimes we are holding so tight to something that once served us or we felt was so important to us. And then we think that moving on from that or letting it go, like it's saying here, is like giving up and not something that's more noble. And I think this beautifully describes both the feeling of that with just how tight we hold to things and not wanting change to happen sometimes. And then when we reach this point where it says, but not until I wilted did I notice something wrong, I think so often that squeeze or that tightness of holding so tightly keeps us from noticing that we're actually not really happy with what's going on, or there is something to change, that thing we're holding on to, we actually don't know why we're holding it anymore. And so then I think in the end saying that you thought holding on was bravery, but it's really even braver to let go, which I think often feels so scary to people.
Yeah, and that it's always a choice. And I think I was listening to Glennon Doyle's podcast a while back, and she was talking a lot about how in the choice of letting go, you're either choosing to stay or choosing to go. And no matter what, it's still a choice that you're making. And there's loss in either decision. And I think that I think about that a lot. And I think our society often makes us believe that choosing to let go and quit, so to speak, is the less brave choice often. And it makes us sometimes, I think, not allow ourselves the insight to start to even be aware of the wilting.
Mm-hmm.
And recognize when it's happening before the consequences are pretty significant.
Yeah.
Don't even have the energy by the time you get to that point to know how to move forward. I see that a lot in my practice, that people have gotten to the point where they're so exhausted and so overwhelmed by where they are that they don't even know where to begin for the change.
Right. They've disconnected for so long from what it feels like and what their experience is that it feels that much more daunting to figure out even where to go. Like everything is just a question mark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's such a common human experience. It was making me think of, actually forgot about this until we were just doing all of this, is I wrote a song called Letting Go.
Mm.
And what you were reminding me of was that song is about relationships in a way. And it's about somebody who's in a relationship trying to really determine like if it's working for them. Right. And so similarly, I think when we have these really vulnerable connections and it's not perfect, which it's not meant to be perfect, but when you think of things that aren't working out, say in any relationship, friendship, or are difficult for one person or both, there's this discomfort with like how to address that. Do I address it? Do I overfunction all the time? Do I just accept it? Like I feel like there's so many pieces that can go into making that a really difficult thing to understand how to let go of. But in that song, so that's sort of the premise. And so it says, I'm letting go to see if you'll catch me or if you'll let me fall. Which is, representing like, I don't have to hold all this together. Like I can kind of let go and just see what happens and really look at what's going on here. And then the last part is, because I can't hold tight to watch you suffocate. I promise I'll give this room to grow. And so that's like, right? I just look at these words here and it's the same word. Like, I'm like, how do people write these things that are so similar? But it was like holding tight, like representing, when you're kind of wanting something to work so badly, you start to suffocate it sometimes. Like, no, I can't let this go. And then you just come to a position of peace on, if I just see what happens here, like it's going to give me the information I need to know. And I just have to trust that I'll give it the space it needs to grow if it can. And if it doesn't, then we know.
Then we know.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't know? If you really don't want to see it? If you're really committed to not letting go?
I think that's, from my perspective, where we get stuck in this cycle sometimes of not being able to fully connect in with what's happening and why we feel the way we feel. Much like you were talking about with some clients and things like that in your practice. I think, and with this poem you just read, there's almost a scary moment of like, you really don't realize. You kind of have to jump into the unknown in order to see what's going on in some ways. And I think if you ignore the call to do that, we end up compensating in a million different ways in our life to make up for that feeling we're having or to try to fill that void or whatever the situation is.
Which might look like overeating, over-exercising, substance use,
numbing,
overworking, any myriad of different things that can result in you numbing so that you don't have to feel the
distract, right? The distractors, all the things we do to keep our mind right when we're like, I don't want to deal with how this feels. So we move into these other arenas and do different things that in the moment feel okay to do and not necessarily something we may even notice ourselves doing to a point of a problem, but it definitely gets in the way of that actual connection with ourselves to know what's going on.
I've certainly found myself doing that before, and I know that there are times in my life where I'll have that feeling where I'm like, I don't feel like I'm okay. There's something going on that doesn't feel right. And it's not until I have the awareness of, oh, that's what it is. And then it takes some discernment to determine, like, am I willing to let it go? And is it time to release it? And I think sometimes I can be real stubborn, and it takes getting hit over the head with a anvil to to be like ready to release something, because sometimes the safety of what I'm in feels more comfortable than the risk of the unknown.
I feel like that's so many people. I feel like that's a phase of the change that happens for almost everybody, right? Which is feeling safe in what you know. And it's the unknown that's scary. And sometimes we're probably just not feeling like we're ready or willing to lean into that or feel like we have the capacity to do that. That's when you talk about like overworking, that's a huge thing for me. And quite literally, I'll find myself saying like, I don't have time in my brain, in my energy space, in my life to think about doing anything differently or changing what I'm doing because I just have enough to kind of do everything I'm already set out to do. And part of that is because I'm just kind of keeping myself going at all times, and then kind of having that crash feeling at the end of like, now I just need to sleep. And there's not necessarily that balance time where I can check in and go, oh, this would really serve me better if I did it this way. Or I actually just stopped distracting myself with all of this and felt how I was feeling and worked on whatever the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When do you know it's right? Like, when do you feel like when you have decided to release something that you know you're moving in the right direction?
It's interesting, but I don't ever recall a time when I actually leaned into doing something different and completely regretted it, I would say. I didn't get it perfect every time. I certainly haven't said, I'm going to let this thing go and move into this space and be like, every time it's 100% correct. I think then we have another choice to make if it doesn't feel right. But I think when it does feel right, there's a lot of freedom in that. I think there's a lot of space for allowing things to come in that might not have been there before. So to me, that feels like calming, grounding, and I don't know, free is just the word that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, trusting in the messy. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's when I quiet the noise and all the static around me of the thoughts of what I think I'm supposed to be doing, and really go inward and trust my intuition and what I know to be true to myself, and take that path. I feel like the path gets easier and smoother. And maybe it doesn't actually get smoother, but it feels better for me because I'm not pushing against a tide or a boulder up a mountain. I think because I've listened to and been to myself and been true to myself in a way that when I'm holding on to something that isn't serving me, I find that the choices that I'm making are harder. And my energy is lower as a result of that.
Yeah, so that disconnection is taking way more energy than it is to sort of finally unify and be like, this is the path I'm supposed to be on, and feel how that feels. A lot like what we talked about last time with authenticity. And I know you mentioned like showing up and how you show up in a room and like kind of bringing that part of yourself to any room that you're in. To me, that reminds me of that same idea of like how we come together into this being and know that we're in alignment.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts about the difference? I know we talked about it a little bit, but the difference between quitting and letting go?
My thought would be that, at least in how the words even sound to me, quitting feels like under duress a little bit, like just the idea of it, like I'm quitting, and I don't know that I actually believe that in terms of like what quitting could mean. But I think when we use that term a lot of the time, it sounds like it's almost like I just have to have this really clean break from something, not look back, like just kind of drop it and maybe pretty quickly. And so I'd imagine for me, when I think of that, it's like everything mounting to a point where there's just no other answer and it has to happen. Letting go to me sounds more of a choice and more something that, as you talk about with that kind of integration feeling, it's you put in the work to get to a place where you start to feel like it makes sense. And so to me, it just is defined more as like the thoughtful process. I don't know.
Yeah. I agree with you. Quitting, I think sometimes maybe it's not impulsive, but it feels more like an impulsive decision that's not necessarily a thought out process. And it feels more reactive, where letting go feels transformative to me. And it feels like you're moving forward. And I think the poem sort of speaks to that transformative process in the same way that the seasons are moving us forward and through.
Yep.
I feel like as humans, we're always evolving and moving into the next phase of becoming who we are going to be.
Yep. That resonates a lot. I think that's exactly how it feels.
Yeah. So what are some tools that help kind of get to that place?
I think everything you're talking about circles around this idea of awareness and being able to take enough care to attune to what's happening within you and around you so that you know it's time for this to happen, right? Or it's a way to help move you forward if you need that as well. So I think in both of our practices, we talk with folks about things that help build awareness internally and externally. So things like journaling or meditating or moving. And you talked about that one. I know that's a good one for you.
Yeah, I think about like internalizers, externalizers when you're in, kinetic thinkers. I know for me, I think the best and process the best in movement. So I find that if I'm walking in nature or on the treadmill, it's when I have my best thoughts, and I'm able to unlock those things that are bothering me or what I need to let go. So those practices work best for me more so than journaling or a meditative practice. I always want to be a journaler or a meditator, but it's just not who I am.
Yeah.
I have to admit that to myself because
Just let it go.
I have to let it go. I do. I just have to let it go.
It's not for everyone. I will say that.
Try for like the 3-minute meditation. That's about my
Awesome.
max.
I think that's pretty good.
Thank you.
I do.
I mean, that's a rare occasion that I get a 3-minute meditation.
Just a little quiet, just a little, yeah. No, you have to find the thing that works. And I think your description of sort of that kinetic energy and what happens within us when we learn through movement and we can integrate more through movement, right? There's so much research about that. And it's so much what that bilateral stimulation, people who've done EMDR experience, right? It's this idea. And so when you're like walking, your body is doing that same process. And I have a number of people I work with who talk about the experience of running and how much can come up while they're running and then feel like physically moving through that experience sometimes they've described. And I thought that's always been a really cool kind of process.
I had the most transformative moment running a half marathon where I think it was about mile 9, where I was listening to an audio book and it was helping me process some things. And at that moment, I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. I don't ever have to run a half marathon again.
Nope.
This is not serving me any longer. The reasons that I started running half marathons, I'm good. This is I think this might be my last half marathon. Pretty sure it wasn't my last half marathon, but I haven't run another half marathon in a while. I think I maybe ran one more after that, but I definitely ended that half going, never again.
Yeah. Listen, that's an intense thing to go through though. Let's be honest. That's wild. Yeah. And you did it.
I did it.
And maybe one more time.
And maybe one more time. I think I did do one more after that, but I definitely remember it was such a funny experience of like, it was like a feeling of like, wow, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I feel like all the reasons, because I started running after a traumatic event where I really needed to feel like I had control over my body again. And it really did help empower me. And I felt in that moment like, I got this. I feel like I have my power back in that way. I don't have to do this anymore. And I'm not enjoying it. So,
but how powerful, like, to experience it in that way and have it as something that moved you through so much of an experience and to gain that power and then to get to a place of, much like we're talking about, all of a sudden being like, I can release this. Yeah. I don't need to keep running.
Right.
I think but it's true. Like it serves us for a point in time. And then eventually maybe we don't need that thing anymore that we once did. So that's a great example.
Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think some of the other things are like, especially things that have been an adaptation or served you for many, many years, or a relationship that's been in your, family or a close friend that you're discerning if it's the right relationship for you. or a habit that you're trying to let go of. Um, I think moderation and moving towards is also a tool. So replacing that habit with one thing at a time and setting yourself attainable goals, but then noting, journaling if you're a journaler, or having a conversation with a friend of what it felt like when you replaced that cigarette with, coffee with a friend instead, or something like that. What did that feel like? Was that different? And that might have been a really terrible example, but
I don't think so. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great example for how we need to focus on small incremental changes. I think often the reason we don't let go is because it feels like it's so overwhelming that we just can't imagine doing that or that change happening, or being able to maintain it, right? I feel like there's just so much that happens when we get into very all or nothing thinking. And so oftentimes any change feels like it's almost impossible to do because it would require us to completely make that shift and never look back.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about habit changes, I think what you're keying in on is that awareness first starts with understanding what that thing is doing to serve you, and how do I then take that function of what this is and apply it to something else and see if it feels different, better, like it's working for you, like it could work for you in the future if you kept it up. And
and then just adding a little bit every couple weeks and till it replaces it. Yes,
I love that.
Got it.
So I feel like that really does help guide us into what moving toward looks like. I think your description, even in terms of running and how that served you and habit changes serve us, helps define how we can intentionally move toward sort of that next step. Once we have let go, how do we move toward the next thing? But I'm curious how you feel about like how we stay open to possibility when we're in between, when we haven't quite arrived somewhere, when we don't know where we're really going yet, but we do know we've let go and we're starting that process. Because I think it might, for me anyhow, sometimes I want to like fast forward through the process and be there already and be like, I did it, I'm done, like I found the next thing or whatever it is. And there's an important part and step that comes from being between the two.
Sometimes that's where all the growth is, actually, and the transformation within you is at that place. I think that that's really hard, and some of it is trusting the process. And I don't know, for me, it's about keeping your eye on the horizon and recognizing where you're headed, kind of goal oriented, vision board, and knowing, and also recognizing and remembering the reasons that you let go. I think grounding yourself in the reasons that you let go and what you're moving towards helps you stay motivated to continue to go to that place. And I think anytime you have intolerable feelings, sometimes it feels like you're going to feel like that forever.
Yep.
But we're not wired that way as humans. Our bodies and our minds want to be neutral. And so it's never going to stay in that place.
Right.
So recognize that you won't feel like this way forever, and you will move to the other side, and oftentimes to something better than you expected, if you trust the process.
Right. Yeah, that is, I think, such a universal human experience, is when you're in a difficult space, feeling something really challenging, it feels like it will last forever. And I think we often just teach ourselves or tell ourselves that that's the case, which stop us from taking any chances.
Yeah. How can we support each other in the process of letting go?
I think one of the major things that we can do is help build community in a way. I think part of what happens with a lot of struggle is I think a lot of people isolate or feel like they need to handle things on their own, right? So I think on one end, I think obviously being therapists, we support, people helping one another get the help that they need, those kinds of things. But I think a layer beyond that is creating a space where conversations that are hard can happen, where people are able to tap into their own struggles and start to share in that with somebody else so that they don't feel so alone in it. And I think one of the ways we do that, you and I in particular, is through a group that we run.
I do.
And I think the reason we came up with this group was pretty much for this reason, right? That we recognize that there aren't a lot of spaces that are just open for people to come to, showing up as they are, and whatever that day has brought them, or whatever that week, month, whatever has brought them, and they can just show up and have a safe space to challenge themselves a little bit, to have a space to talk through what they're going through, but also maybe learn something from some new friends. So we created this group called the Resilience Circle, and I love it. It's probably the best part of our week sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's just a group we created for exactly what I was just saying, so that people have a space to show up as themselves, work on that authenticity in a way, and also connect with others who might be struggling in similar ways. So I think when it comes to this topic of letting go, sometimes we need encouragement from others, or we need to hear the stories of others that help motivate us to do something different or take the risk to actually let go and take steps forward. It's so much easier when you see somebody else who's either gone through the same thing you haven't, or when you see somebody who is just there to encourage you to take that leap.
I agree. Or laugh with you.
Yes.
I definitely had my green tea got me last week.
Oh my gosh. It
And
did.
I was a little caffeine buzzy.
That was some strong green tea.
It was really strong green tea. And I was a little wild at checkout.
Yeah.
So we had a bit of a laugh.
We did.
At the end of RC last week. So.
We really did. Yeah. No, that's so true. There's so much to it. And so I guess I would say for that in general, like if you're not, a part of a group like that, if there's things in your community that you can join to give you that space to have those conversations, that's awesome. If you're local to us, we're in Waterford, Connecticut. We have our group every Thursday night from 6 to 7. So check out our info if you want to join. But we'd love to have anyone who's interested. All right. So what would you say if somebody listening to this feels stuck? Or what's one gentle first step you think that they can take today?
I would say that one first step that would be super helpful is to find one person that you can share something that you feel stuck in and that you would like to move forward. I think accountability is key. And I know for me, once I'm able to unlock that and say it out loud and kind of put it out into the universe and say to a trusted partner, if I'm calling you on my drive into work and I'm like, Courtney, I know what it is now. And I can move to action in some way, even if it's just releasing it into the universe that I need to move forward. I have a level of accountability that I didn't have before, and that helps me start the process of letting go. So that would be my advice.
Awesome. No, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I love when we have those car chats. I feel like that's what you need. An accountability partner.
An accountability buddy.
Yep.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All right. Well, that kind of wraps our topic for today, but we wanted to introduce something new we're going to be doing at the end of every episode.
Yes.
Talk about it.
So rapid fire free association is what we're going to do. So first thing that comes to mind, what is something wacky that has happened to you in the last week? Court, go.
Wow.
You guys should see your face right now. That's my favorite moment of the week right now. Her eyeballs wanted to pop out of her head.
You know me so well, and that this is the challenge. I don't mind free associating, but with the topic in mind, it does get a little tricky.
Mm.
You go first. You're so much better at the fast thinking.
Well,
This.
I would say generic face.
Mm.
Why does everybody think that I look like everyone else? Their cousin, their sister,
Yes.
their long lost friend.
Mhm.
Maybe I have a doppelganger somewhere else. I'd like to think it's because I have very symmetrical features. I don't know if that's why, but
It could be.
maybe. Maybe it's not. but I always get mistaken or identified as other people everywhere I go.
I have noticed that about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really is. And it's wild because I don't think I know anyone who looks exactly like you, but I do know you so well that maybe that makes it impossible to think that anymore. But I also think you're just exuding this experience for people of like, they just feel so familiar.
Maybe.
Like you're so familiar to them that they just think you're their like long lost cousin that they loved forever. And I don't know.
I hope that's what it is.
think so.
I hope that it's just a sense of comfort and connection that I give off. I'm going to go with that. That's what it is.
I love that for you.
Thank you. How about you? Are you ready now?
Wacky, wild.
You had to get a new washing machine.
I did. That's so boring, though. It doesn't feel wacky and wild.
Well, it's not wacky or wild, but
it was something I had to do.
It is. It's not fun. It's very adulting of you.
I know. Ew.
Ew.
I didn't love that. Oh, I know what I can talk about. I went on a ghost tour last night.
Ooh.
That was wacky and wild. And I did not expect it to be like over 2 hours walking around this little town next door to my town and learning all the history, some really weird stuff. I don't even know what else to say about it. It was just so fun, but a little bizarre. It was so much fun, though. I thought in the end, like, it's totally, I wouldn't say outside my comfort zone, but like not something I would normally just sign up to do. But it was a lot of fun, though. And I learned a ton about the area and just the history there. And about some really cool ghosts. All right. Well, I think that does it.
That might do it.
And on a ghost note.
I think so.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us and for listening this week. We appreciate all the listeners and all the support we've gotten so far. We're super excited to be doing this. And we have many friends and family members who've given us nice support and positive feedback. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Some people have asked some questions too. I've been answering them on Spotify. So if people do have comments or questions or want to write in, you can certainly do that. We do check that and we'll respond. But check out the rest of our social media as well. And you can always talk to us there.
Cool.
All right.
Good week.